Greetings to all of you and a hearty welcome to day 6 of our session on Java-based microservices. Before we proceed with the deliverables that we have planned for today, let us quickly have a look at the agenda just to look at what modules we have already completed, and then we can go ahead with today's deliverables. So just showing you the agenda. Can you tell me till now, in terms of the agenda, we have completed our discussions till which module? Correct. We have completed till 4.1, isn't it? Yeah. So today the plan is we will discuss on the second Spring Cloud project, which is a client-side load balancer. And while discussing the client-side load balancer, we will be using this project called a Spring Cloud Load Balancer. Okay, so this is the discussion that we have planned for today. But before I start with this discussion and take you through first the conceptual discussion, post that I will take you through the implementation of the same. Yeah, but I'm sure like all of you remember the drill. Before we even continue with our deliverables, we will attempt a small quiz. The quiz will indirectly help us to kind of review and revise whatever we have done in our previous day's session. Yeah. So let me show you these. You can start with question number 1 that you see on the screen on top, please. What should be the value of the server.port property if you want your microservice to run on any available random port? Correct. You have to set the value to 0. Right? Server.port value, you have to set it to 0. Perfect. Question number 2, please. When there are multiple Eureka servers set up to run in a replicator sibling mode, the microservices should register with all the Eureka servers to ensure availability, true or false. All people who are saying true, I'm wondering whether you guys were there during the discussion with us or not. Yeah. How are many of you saying it is true? Yesterday also during the demonstration, we had 3 Eureka servers, right? Eureka primary, Eureka secondary, and Eureka tertiary. Did the microservice register with all of them? No, right? It has to register with only one of it. And the replication between the siblings will automatically happen. The state information will get shared with the other replica siblings, isn't it? People who have said true, are you with me? Yes, please remember, many of you might feel that the conceptual understanding is not required. Only if you know how to implement and code microservices, it will be enough. Not really. You need to understand the concepts well. Yep. And tomorrow there is also a quick assessment that you have to take up, guys. Only if you take up and clear the quick assessment, your data will be updated under training data. Now I'm getting a little worried because whatever we have done yesterday, right opposite answer you guys have given me for the question number 2. Yeah, please be a little careful, please. If you are not attentive, I highly recommend you to go back, find time, go through the recordings again. Yeah, moving on to question number 3. In case you are maintaining some application level properties in your YML file and want to inject these property values into your application variables, which annotation can be used to do so? Correct. @value, right? @value. Yeah, perfect. That's the correct answer. Question number 4, please. Can you have multiple set of configurations stored in a single YML file? Yes, of course you can have. But how do you group them or how do you divide them? correct? You will use 3 hyphens, right? 3 hyphens and you will divide them, right? And of course, for every set of configuration, you can give a Spring profiles name. And when you're running your app, you can pick up a specific profile by changing the run configurations, is it? Yeah. So have a look. So that's the second next question. Let me just change this to 5 and this to 6. Yeah. So answer the 5th question, please. If you want your application to pick up a specific run configuration as active set of configuration, how do you do it? What steps are involved? Assuming that you have kept all the group of your configuration and you have given a name to it in the YML file. Correct. You will right click on your app. You will choose the run as run configuration. In the run configuration for the particular app, you will go to the VM arguments, and in the VM arguments, you will specify the Spring profiles.active and you will specify the value, isn't it? Yeah. Remember, guys, all this we have done yesterday, is it? Yeah. The last question for our quiz. What information do you usually see in the Eureka server dashboard? Can you name a few? At least the important ones. Correct. You will be able to see the Discovery server replicas in case you have set up replicas and the other instances which are registered with Eureka, is it? Yeah. Plus other general information about the IP address, okay, and all that you should be able to see. Yeah. And for every instance, again, it will show you the instance ID, the status, whether it is up, yeah, how many instances are there, all that it would show. Yeah, perfect. So great, thanks for attempting the quiz. And I'm sure like the quiz has helped you to kind of review and revise and also kind of help you to understand where you lack confidence. So you can go back and re-look at our recordings in case you want to revise your understanding. Please. Yeah. Okay, great. So with that, we now have to move to this module on load balance. Yeah. So again, let me first take you through the various concepts pertaining to the load balancer, and post that we will show you a implementation program. Yeah. Team, if you all recollect, as per our application, the demo application that we are using during our training, at present, what is the status? Yeah, you have one Eureka server that is set up, and either it can run in single or multiple Eureka servers. That should not be an issue. So you have already set up a Eureka server and you have set up your microservices to behave as Eureka clients, isn't it? Yes, right. Now, in the MS Teams, I had also shared one article, which is a very good article on understanding the concept of self-preservation mode of your Eureka server and what are the concept of renewals, lease, and other things. Where did you get time to just go through that article and just do a quick one round of reading? Yes, okay, I can at least see a couple of people who are saying yes, that's good. Others also. Please note, more you spend your time looking at other articles and learning a little more, it's advantageous for you itself. It's a value add, isn't it? Yeah. Because in a training, what happens is there is limited amount of time that is there. And the trainer like me wants to focus on the main important concepts. Yeah. We might really not have too much of time to discuss all the possible properties and configurations available for each of these projects. Yeah. So please cultivate the habit of going through the article shared by me because I just usually share very quick and easy articles, easy to understand articles. Yeah. Okay, great. So coming back to our discussion. So at present, one Eureka server is up and two microservices are there, right? Which is Cafe Info and Cafe Review. Now, if you have only one instance of each, it wouldn't be a really issue at all. So if Cafe Info wants to talk to Cafe Review, there's absolutely only one instance available. So there's no choice at all. So it has to anyway call that particular instance, right? But many a times what happens is to ensure scalability, to ensure that your apps are capable of handling multiple parallel simultaneous users and requests. Many a times we scale up our app, right? So instead of running only one instance of our app, you might run multiple instances of your app, isn't it? Yeah. So when you are doing it, okay, when assuming that in our case, you have one instance of Cafe Info available and 3 instances of Cafe Review app available. Out of these instances, if you recollect our previous code, yeah, you all remember this code that we used in our Eureka, yeah, using discovery client, using get instances method. I got the instances of Cafe Review, but when I get the instances of Cafe Review, all the 3 instances are available in this list, right? But here, if you see, from this instances list, when I say get of 0, which instance am I extracting, guys? Which instance am I extracting? Correct, I'm extracting the first instance. Yeah. Sudhir, how is it random, Sudhir? Yeah, guys, please. Yeah. I think if you start becoming shaky in the basic thing itself, how do you expect me to continue with advanced topics, guys? What is so difficult here? Aren't all of us aware of Java collections? I'm not even talking about anything related to microservices. Yeah, isn't instances here a list, guys? Isn't this a list? Yeah. So if I'm saying instances dot get of 0, yeah, which instance am I getting here? Correct, the first instance, isn't it? Yeah. Now the question here is, of course, here I've just got the first instance, and from that first instance, I've got the URI, and further I will do my request. But my question here is, whichever I have selected, either the first one, second one, or third one, do you think this was the best selection? Or are you sure that whichever instance you're selecting here, do you think this was the best available instance? May not be. Maybe may not be. We don't know. Isn't it? Yeah. So instead of we doing the selection, don't you think so it would be better that this selection itself can be made by an expert? Yeah. Yes, there are 3 or more uh, instances of the same application available. But out of these instances, whichever is the best instance, it could pick up for you, isn't it? Yeah. So that is where the load balancer comes in. Okay. So let me introduce you to the concept of load balancer. Me and you, whenever we think of a load balancer, yes, predominantly we think of it as a server side load balancer. Yes, traditionally, if you look at load balancers, the job of the load balancer is to kind of divide the incoming requests that are coming in across multiple apps or multiple servers that are running, right? That's the traditional load balancer. So traditionally, load balancers, of course, are server side components. As you can see in this picture, the role of the load balancer is whenever a request comes in, the load balancer distributes the incoming traffic amongst the multiple servers that it might have. So this is a traditional server side load balancer. Of course, this server side load balancer either could be a hardware load balancer, it could be a hardware component, which is a load balancer component, or it could be, for example, you have hardware load balancers available called Big IP, NSX, etc. Plus, it can also be a software load balancer. So Apache has software load balancers, Nginx, HA proxy. There are many products which can be software load balancer. But traditionally, load balancers are server-side component, like how you see here. Assuming that these are the servers, the load balancer's job is to distribute the incoming traffic among the several servers. But during our discussion, we are talking about the client-side load balancer. Now, what do you mean by a client-side load balancer and what does it do? Assuming that this is how the scenario looks. Yeah, this is our cafe info microservice, and assuming that here there are many instances of cafe review running. Maybe 2 instances are running here, 1 instance is running here, or another instance is running here, or whatever. You can see here that the client-side load balancer is configured on the application side. So as the name itself suggests, client-side load balancer are configured on the application side. So in our example, cafe info is what is calling the cafe review methods. So I would configure the client-side load balancer on the application side, which is the cafe info side. Now, once you have configured the client-side load balancer, what does this client-side load balancer do? The job of the client-side load balancer is to select out of the available instances that are there, which exact instance to call, which exact server instance to call. That selection will be done by the client-side load balancer. But how does it do this selection? Does it haphazardly select something that is available? May not be. It is based on certain criteria. There are various criteria and algorithms the load balancer can follow. Based on that criteria, it can do the selection. And as the name itself suggests, client-side load balancer is part of the client software. So you have to configure it and enable it on the client side, which in my case is the microservice side. And please note one important thing. Just because you are configuring a client-side load balancer in one of your apps, that does not mean that on the server side, the server-side load balancer might not be required and we will remove it. Not really. We will still be using the server-side load balancer because all requests coming to that particular server, the server-side load balancer can anyway balance the load between the multiple instances. Yeah. So production environment usually will be, of course, you can configure the client-side load balancer because based on certain criteria and algorithms, the client-side load balancer will select a particular server instance to make a call to, and that server again can have its own server-side load balancer. Okay, so these are some points that you have to remember. Guys, are you all with me? So tomorrow in the quiz, if I ask you one question, while implementing client-side load balancer, the server-side load balancer is not at all required. If I make a statement like this and ask whether it is true or false, what will be your answer? False, right? Both of them are two different things. And just because you have configured the client-side load balancer, of course, you can still have the server-side load balance, isn't it? Yeah. Now, so in our case also, we are going to implement a client-side load balancer. But you might be wondering why, after all, do I need a client-side load balancer at all? Yeah, as we have already hinted on this point a little earlier. Please remember, when you are working in a huge production environment and you have a huge distributed application spread across multiple servers, etc., please remember not all the servers are the same, isn't it? Yeah, because some servers may be working fine, but some servers may be unavailable. They might have a fault with them. So at present, maybe some server is down. Some server may be slower than the others. So there might be difference in their performance, right? Or some may be further than the others. So talking about a cloud environment usually is grouped under zones. Okay, so or you can also call it as a region. Now, some servers might be there in the same region, so it is closest to your app. Some servers might be in a different far off region, right? So some may be closer, some may be farther. Yeah. So these are some of the reasons why you might need a client-side load balancer, because not all these servers are the same. They may not be the same in terms of their availability. They might not be the same in terms of their performance, and they might also not be the same in terms of its proximity, isn't it? Yeah. So that's why it's important for you to take advantage of a client-side load balancer. So talking about default scenario or typical scenario here. Can you look at this picture below and tell me, as per this picture, how many zones or how many regions do I have in my kind of setup? Correct. You have 3 regions, right? You can see here, US West, US East, and EU Frankfurt. Now you can see here that I might have my microservices spread across. So assuming that this is my cafe info microservice, and here you might have cafe review, and cafe review. 3 instances are there. Here there might be 1 instance. Yeah. Here there might be 2 instances of cafe review. Likewise. Yeah. Now if you can see here, if this is my cafe info app, and here you have configured the client side load balancer in your app, and from this cafe info app you want to make a call to cafe review. Now by default, when you have set up a load balancer, the default algorithm for a load balancer in a typical cloud environment, or even when you are trying it on your laptop, a typical non-cloud environment is, it will prefer to call which cafe review instance. This is the logic that it uses. It will call the closest, fastest response in the same region. So you can see that in this example, cafe info is in the region called US West, and there are many cafe review instances that are there in the same region called US West. So going by the default algorithm of a load balancer, it will always first prefer to use the instances found in the same region. So it will prefer to use the instances found in the same region. But in the same region, how many instances of cafe review is available, guys? How many instances of cafe review is available in the same region as cafe info? Yeah, 3 instances are available, right? So because there are 3 instances, out of these 3 instances, which one does it pick up? It picks up the fastest response. So whichever is closest to me, whichever is generating the fastest response, that is the instance that it might pick up. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah, this is a default setting even in the cloud balancer. Of course, the algorithms can be changed according to your need. But if you don't change any default setting, always the preference of a load balancer is to choose something that is there in the same region, which is giving you a fastest response. Team, are you all with me? Okay, so these are the concepts pertaining to client-side load balancer. So now that we have got to know the concepts behind the client-side load balancer, what do you feel, guys? Do you think in production environments, a client-side load balancer can add value to your distributed applications? Absolutely yes, is it? Yeah. So now that you are convinced that yes, client-side load balancer can add value, we will look at the products that are available which can help you to apply and work with this client-side load balancer. Yeah. I'm introducing you to one client-side load balancer product from Netflix OSS called Spring Cloud Netflix Ribbon. Yeah, as the name itself suggests, Ribbon is the product which is part of the Netflix OSS family. So talking a little about the Ribbon features, of course, Ribbon is a client-side load balancer. There are various features available with Ribbon. One very useful and interesting feature is if you start using Ribbon as your client-side load balancer, automatically it will integrate with your Eureka server. Okay, so if you're using Eureka server as your registry server and all other microservices are registering with the Eureka server, Ribbon will automatically integrate with the service discovery. So in our case, Eureka, right? In case you have set up fault tolerance and circuit breaker like Hystrix, it can even integrate and work with it. Ribbon also as a client-side load balancer has its own caching facilities so that once I make a call to an instance, I will cache it so that the next time I can start using the same instance. Plus Ribbon also supports many different protocols. Plus to use Ribbon, we all know, right? Spring Cloud acts as a wrapper around Netflix OSS projects. So if you want to use Ribbon, easily we can start using it using Spring Cloud because Spring Cloud acts a wrapper around Netflix OSS and through Spring Cloud we can start using Ribbon. Yeah. So to understand Ribbon, yeah, there are 4 key concepts that you need to be aware of Ribbon. Yeah. What are the 4 key concepts that you should be aware of Ribbon? One is, how does Ribbon get to know the list of servers where this instance is running, right? So for example, if you have configured Ribbon client-side load balancer in your cafe info, the client-side load balancer, which is Ribbon, should know a list of servers where cafe review is running, isn't it? How does it know the list of servers? Plus, you can also apply a filtering to this list of servers. If you don't want the searching to happen across all the available servers, you want your load balancer to check with only few availability zones or whatever, you can even filter it. Yeah. Plus, then you also have a facility where you should check, you should ping and check whether those instances are alive and just to check whether they're alive. And once they are alive, finally the load balancer component actually does the load balancer and calls the appropriate instance by choosing the best instance, isn't it? Yeah. These are the key concepts of Ribbon that you need to be aware of. Yeah. Now, talking a little more about each of these concepts. First is, what about list of servers? Yeah. As the name itself suggests, as I've just now described, list of servers determines what is the probable list of servers where the given instance is found. Yeah. There are 2 broader ways how you can configure this list of servers. One is a static way, where you're, as the name itself suggests, static means you are manually populating the static list of servers via your configuration file. This is one manual way of doing it. Yeah. So this is how you can do it. For example, in your application.yml file, you can add a configuration like this. Assume that this is cafe info and this is cafe review. You can add some configuration like this, saying cafe info for cafe info microservice. This is the Ribbon configuration. This is the list of servers. So cafe info is found on store1.com and store2.com. Similarly, cafe review Ribbon related list of servers is, where is cafe review found? Cafe review is found on productserver1.com. So you can specify a manual list of servers like this. Yeah, but though it is easy to do it, do you think maintaining a static list of servers like this and manually configuring it, do you think it is suitable for a huge production environment, guys? Absolutely no, isn't it? Yeah. And we all know that if at all you're using cloud, that this does not work well at all because of the ephemeral concept of cloud instances, isn't it? Yeah. So instead of static, it's always good to use a dynamic list of servers. Now, what do you mean by dynamic list of servers? Dynamic list of servers, as the name itself suggests, you need not do anything manually, but this list of servers will be populated via the discovery service, which is our Eureka. You all remember, right? Yesterday and day before also, we've been seeing the Eureka server. Yeah. Isn't Eureka server maintaining all the details? Yeah. What are the instances that are registered? On which host they are running? On which port they are running? Whether they are up or down? All the details are anyway maintained in Eureka. So why should Ribbon do this activity all over again? Okay. So of course, dynamic is better, and Ribbon default also is, Spring Cloud default also is for list of servers, because it is anyway integrated with Eureka. It uses Eureka when Eureka is present on the class path. So Eureka will be checked. Eureka is anyway maintaining a list of servers. So Ribbon will nicely work with Eureka and get the details that it needs. Team, are you all with me? It's like friends with a purpose, you know. Why did Ribbon integrate with Eureka? Because it wanted to use the facilities provided by Eureka to make things easier for Ribbon, isn't it? Yeah. So this is the list of servers. Yeah. Similarly, you can also mention a filtered list of servers. Yeah. See, assume in one of our production environments, assume there are 4 zones. I'm just taking an example. Okay. Assume there are 4 regions. Okay, 4 regions like this, or 4 zones, and in each of the region also there are multiple instances of the service available. Yeah. So for example, in the first, I'll just call it with numbers. Yeah. And assume in the first region there are 3 instances. Second region there are 2 instances. Third region there are 4 instances. And the 4th region, there's only 1 instance of the service. Yeah. Now, filtered list of, now in this, as per this example, total list of servers or total list of machines where this cafe review is present. What is the total list of servers, guys? What is the total list of servers where cafe review is present in my example here? Total list of servers. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the zone, is the region. And in each of the region, I have said how many servers or how many instances of the app is running. So totally how many? Total list of servers. 10, isn't it? Yeah, total is 10. But I might apply a criteria or a filtering criteria. I might say, as per my filtering criteria, restrict your access only to zone 1 and 2. So according, I can apply a filter, and according to my filter, I might want to restrict it to access only those instances available in zone 1 and 2. So as per this filtering criteria, how many instances will I be able to access? Correct. 5 instances I'll be able to access, isn't it? So 3 from zone 1 and 2 from zone 2, right? So total 5 instances. So that way, whenever you are filtering, you are restricting the amount of servers available to you. So that way, your choosing also will become quicker. Yeah. So you can apply this manually also. But if you don't apply anything manually, what is the Spring Cloud default? As we said, Spring Cloud default is it will filter servers in the same zone. Yeah, in the same zone. So in my case, if Cafe Info was working in zone 3, if Cafe Info also was working in the zone 3, how many servers will I have access to now where Cafe Review is running? Correct, 4 of it, isn't it? Yeah. So you can apply your filtering criteria based on your requirement. But again, if you don't change anything, the default Ribbon configuration for the filtering is it will always filter servers in the same zone. Yeah. And the next concept is ping. Fine. I know I wanted to know the list of servers where the microservices are available. I also applied a filtering criteria. Now I know how many servers are there, how many instances are there. Now, before calling them or choosing them, one final test we have to do is to do a ping. I'm sure like many of us also use this ping command, isn't it? Yeah. For example, if I want to find out, assume I'm working with some remote server. If I want to find out whether the remote server is up and running, I usually do a ping, right? I say ping followed by that IP address. And if I get the reply from that, I will usually know that that machine is alive and then I can access it. Isn't it, guys? Yeah. Same concept here. Once the selections are made, finally, before I do the selection, I will ping those instances to check whether that appropriate server is up or down. Yeah, that is the concept of ping. But what is Spring Cloud default? I need not even do ping because anyway, I'm integrating with Eureka for rest of my task. Isn't Eureka maintaining the status whether an instance is up or down, guys? Isn't Eureka maintaining? Yes, it is maintaining that detail also. So the default of Spring Cloud is it will delegate this task also to Eureka to determine whether a particular instance or a server is up or down. Yeah? So these are the internal things that it does. And finally, once everything is ready and based on your criteria, it's able to select, there are available instances. Based on the algorithm, the actual load balancer component will select and choose the most appropriate instance for you. So the load balancer is the actual component that will route the calls to the servers in the filtered list. Of course, to choose a particular instance, there are different strategies available, right? So default is zone aware load balancer. What is zone aware load balancer? Zone aware load balancer strategy is it will select the closest and fastest response found in the same region. This is the default strategy, which is called as zone aware load balancer strategy. Yeah, that is the by default strategy. But again, there are different algorithms that are there. And based on this algorithm rule, accordingly, decisions will be made. For example, there are certain load balancer strategies available called random. Any guesses how a random strategy will work? Any idea how a random strategy might work? Assume there are 3 instances. Correct. It will choose at random. There is no logic applied. Randomly, it will pick up one instance. Yeah. That might not be the most optimal way, right? There might be one more strategy or algorithm called round robin. Any idea how round robin works? Assuming that there are 3 instances. Yeah, correct. See, first it will go here. First request will go to the first one. Second instance to this. Third request to this. Again, round robin. Again, the fourth request will go to the first one, then to this, and then to this. So it's round robin. Yeah. Plus, you also have other strategies also. Like there's a strategy called least connection. So it will select that instance which has the least connection for now. Yeah. It might also work on something called as weighted metrics. Yeah. Weighted metrics can be determined based on various other strategies, like depending on the CPU utilization, depending on the RAM, and depending on the other criteria. Based on some kind of weighted metric calculation, the selections can be made. Yeah. So all these you can do. But by default, the Spring Cloud's default strategy is zone aware load balancer, and that is the most optimal load balancer strategy, which is suitable even for the cloud. Team, are you all with me? Okay. So based on, of course, if you really want to change the strategies, there are various ways of changing the configuration. But if you don't change any strategies, by default, it is zone aware load balancing strategy. Team, are you all with me? All these are related to ribbon. But please remember, if you want to use ribbon in your apps, yeah, how do you do it? One thing you have to do is you have to include the ribbon dependency. So in your app, in your pom.xml, you will add the dependency for ribbon. Yeah. So group ID is org spring framework.cloud and spring cloud starter ribbon. So this is the artifact ID. So step number 1 to use ribbon is just add the ribbon dependency. And step number 2 is there are no ribbon related annotations that are required. Only if your intention is to change the default configuration, change the strategies and algorithms, then you might have to use one annotation called @ribbon client, and then you might have to provide the configurational class. In that configurational class, you can change the strategies. But assuming that you are not planning to change the default strategies, only other requirement is directly in your controller or in your service, wherever you are calling the other microservice, you will make your change. Yeah. I want you to look at this code very carefully. Compare this code with the previous code that we were using. When we were just using Eureka and we were not using any load balancer, you remember this? We used an object of type discovery client. Then using discovery client, I got all instances, and from all the instances, I selected one, right? So manually, developer is selecting one instance. But compare this with the load balancer code. Go through it. I'm sure you'll be able to understand. Look at the method names. You will be roughly able to understand what is it actually doing. Are you realizing that instead of using discovery client object, if you want to use the load balancer to choose your instances, you will create an object of type load balancer client. Yeah, you will auto-wire, you can auto-wire for an object of type load balancer client. Now, once you have an object of load balancer client, using the load balancer client object, you call the choose method and you supply the name of the microservice that you want to choose. Yeah. So here, assume I'm choosing the cafe review. Now, if you look at what this choose method returns, is it returning multiple instances or is it returning one best instance for you? Look at the return, what it returned. Look at the code. What did it return? Right, it has returned only one service instance based on the criteria. Yeah. So again, as I told you, internally, it uses a default algorithm, which is zone aware load balancer. And based on that strategy, the fastest and the closest instance in that same zone is what it will select. Yeah. And once you get the instance, rest of the code is the same. Like earlier, how after getting the instance, from this instance, you can use the get URI method. You get the URI and then you append your additional things and finally make your request, right? Exactly the same way. Another way, here you have used one method called get URI. That also will work. But another way is, if you don't want to use get URI method, you can build the URI like this also. So using the URI classes static method called create, you can first create a URI by providing a format. Format of the URI will be like this HTTP. After that, there will be a string, then colon, there will be a string. And then what is this percentage S? This percentage S, the first percentage S will be replaced with instance.hostname. Similarly, the second percentage S will be replaced with the port. Yeah. So instead of writing these two lines, you can even use the method called get URI. That also works fine. But this is another way of doing it. Yeah. And once you have the URI, the rest of the steps are the same. But what is the difference? Did you realize that in this example, load balancer client is my expert, and the load balancer client is choosing the most perfect instance for me. Are you with me, guys? So this is how you can use the load balance. Yeah. And once you get the URI, rest of the code will remain the same. Yeah. Later, usually what do we use? Till now, what have we used? Once you have the URI, which is the Spring Supply template class we have used to actually make a request onto the REST endpoints or whatever. Correct. We have been using REST template till now, is it? Yeah. That can remain the same. Yeah. But there is a better alternative. I will talk about that in some time. Yeah. So these are the different things that we can do using ribbon, guys. So just to summarize whatever we have done or whatever we have talked in terms of ribbon. To summarize ribbon, ribbon is a client-side load balancer which augments your regular server-side load balancer by allowing the client to select a server based on certain criteria. And Spring Cloud Ribbon is a easy to use implementation of the client-side load balancer. But look at this last point. As of August 2019, if you are using Spring Cloud Hoxton version, M2 version onwards, it has Spring Cloud Load Balancer as an alternative to Ribbon. And in the latest versions of Spring Boot, which is 2.4.m1 onwards, any other version you are using, any later version, please remember Ribbon support is no more available. Yeah. If you are using Spring Boot and Spring Cloud to build your microservices, Ribbon is no more supported as a client-side load balancer. So if I go to my Spring Spring Initializer, and here assume in the dependencies, I want to select ribbon. Yeah. Let me try. So in my microservice, if I wanted to use ribbon, you can see ribbon is no more supported. Yeah. Apart from ribbon, okay, which is the load balancer supported, Spring Cloud Load Balance. So this is Spring Cloud Load Balancer. This is the client-side load balancer with Spring Cloud Load Balancer. So this is the alternative to Ribbon. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. I purposely wanted to discuss about all these things earlier because few of you might be working in a project where there is a little older setup. Maybe you are using a little older versions of Spring Boot and Spring Cloud. If that was the case, obviously the choice for you for working with client-side load balancer will be Ribbon. Yeah, that is why I've retained the slides here. And okay, I've retained the slides here. And the steps are very simple. Just add this dependency. And if you want to go ahead with the default configuration, instead of discovery client object, you just have to use load balancer client object and use the choose method to choose an instance. Rest of the things are the same. Team, are you all with me, please? But during our training, which product are we going to work on? We are going to work on Spring Cloud Load Balancer. Yeah. So come, let's look at that. So till now, I have discussed about the general understanding of a client-side load balancer, which is valid for any load balancer product, client-side load balancer product, not only to Ribbon. After that, I have shared with you some specific detailing of Ribbon that is valid only for Ribbon. And now let me introduce you to the Spring Cloud Load Balance. Yeah. So please remember, Netflix Ribbon is no more supported from Spring Boot 2.4.0 M1 version onwards. So if you are using any version 2.4.m1 and higher, at present we are using Spring Boot version 2.6.6. So obviously it is greater than 2.4. So this version onwards, there is no support for Ribbon. And the suggested replacement for it is Spring Cloud Load Balance. So you can select the below dependency in your Spring Initializer as I just now demonstrated. So in the Spring Initializer, if you are creating an app from scratch and you know that you want to use a client-side load balancer, you can choose Cloud Load Balancer, okay, in the Spring Initializer itself. Otherwise also for an existing app, if you want to add client-side load balancer facility, nothing great. Just go to your pom.xml and manually you can update your pom.xml with this below dependency. See, org.springframework.cloud and Spring Cloud Starter Load Balancer. This is the artifact ID. So just add this dependency and the appropriate dependency would be downloaded by Maven. And once everything is there, you can continue further. Again, once you do this, this is step number 1 that you have to add. Once you have done that, step number 2 remains the same. Okay, step number 2 remains the same. Look at the code. Yeah, irrespective of whether you are using Ribbon or Spring Cloud Load Balancer, the load balancer client code will remain the same. You'll still create an object of load balancer client, and using the load balancer client object, you will call the choose method. This will remain the same. Guys, are you all with me? And very similar to Ribbon, even if you don't change any configurations, the Spring Cloud Load Balancer also, the default strategy is going to be zone aware load balancer. So by default, it will work along with Discovery Server, which is Eureka, plus zone aware load balancer is the default strategy. Yeah. But again, it's left to you. You can even reconfigure your settings, right? For example, remember I was telling you about the different algorithms that are available. Assume instead of zone aware load balancer, you want to change it to maybe round robin, or you want to change it to, there is also one strategy available called choose one instance. So whichever is the first instance, choose only that instance every time. Kind of stickiness. You want to maintain your connection with only one instance. All that also is possible. But how do you do that? If you want to customize, please look at the heading. Nobody is asking us to customize any property. Typically, the Spring Cloud defaults are made as defaults, keeping in mind various requirements and various cloud related requirements also. So the default properties and configuration should be more than enough. But in case you want to customize your load balancer behavior, maybe you want to change its rule or algorithm, that also is possible. So only if you want to do that, look at what you're doing. You can use @load balancer client annotation either on your main application class. Okay. If you're not using any other product, right on your main application class, you can use @load balancer client. You can just give a name to it just to identify it. And using the configuration property, you can provide the name of your configuration class, which will contain your customized property related details. Yeah. So you will use @load balancer client annotation, then give a name to it. And using the configuration property, supply the name of the class, which will contain your customized settings. So in my case, I've given the name to my customized configuration class as cloud provider configuration.class. So you have to create this. This is your cloud provider configuration class. Yeah. Look at this, please. Look at this class. Go through the code. I'm sure you can understand. In case your intention was to customize, this is how you can customize. So in my cloud provider configuration class, I will create a bean of type service instance list supplier. So if at all you want to configure and customize your load balancer configurations, in your configuration class, you have to return a bean of type service instance list supplier. So here you can see, this is the service instance list supplier, and this is my method. So it is going to receive a configurable application context object, which is nothing but my Spring container. So what is it returning? It should return a service instance list supplier object, right? So it's building a service instance list supplier. And to this builder, I'm adding my criteria. Yeah. What are my criteria? My criteria is your client side load balancer should work with discovery client. So I'm saying it should work with discovery client. Anyway, that's the default. I'm also selecting with zone preference. This is again the default because the zone preference is the default anyway. So I want to select this criteria called with zone preference. I can select whether it has to use caching. So whether you say with caching or you don't use it, by default, it uses caching internally. So that. And finally, you can build this entire builder. Once this builder is ready, you can call this method called build and you can pass on the context. Yeah. So this is how you can configure. Again, it's left to you, right? For example, if you wanted to change, instead of with zone preference, you don't want to use this. Instead of with zone preference, you can choose something else. There are many options available. For example, as I told you, you can specify whether you want to pick up the same instance always. Yeah, there are algorithms available for that. So that rule you can select. Team, are you all with me? Yes. Zone is a region. Usually in a cloud environment, multiple servers together are grouped as a region. That region is also called as a zone. Okay. Again, the region internally can be divided into multiple zones. It's just a grouping of servers. Team, are you all with me, please? So idea is if you want to use Spring Cloud load balancer, what are the steps that are involved? Yeah. Step one is add the load balancer dependency. That is step one. Yeah. Step two, nothing great. Directly in your controller class or in your service class, instead of using discovery client object, you will use the load balancer client object. And using the load balancer client object, you'll call the choose method to choose the instance, right? These are the two required steps. Optionally, only if your intention was to change the load balancer configurations and algorithms, then you can use, this is optional. So just call it as optional. Optional, you can set the load balancer client annotation on your main application class. Provide the name of your configuration class here. And in the configuration, this is the continuation of the third step. In your configuration class, you can create an object of service instance list supplier, make your changes if required, all that you can do here. Guys, are you all with me? Yes, these are the only steps. And once your URI is ready, we can use the REST template and we can make our calls. Yeah, that is the usual strategy. But whenever you are using a client-side load balancer, instead of using the basic REST template class to make your REST calls, etc., there is a better option to it. People who have been working with the latest versions of Spring Boot, or you might be working on reactive Spring Boot, you might be aware that there is an alternative to REST template called web client, right? You can use web client very similar, and using web client, you can make the same calls. Yeah. But even compared to web client, there is another alternative that is available, which is a declarative REST client that is called as OpenFean. Yeah. So an alternative to REST template, which is suitable to work with the load balancer, is one declarative REST client called Fean. Yeah. So let me introduce you to the Fean client, which is the OpenFean. What is Fiend? It's an alternative to REST template. So Fiend is a declarative web service client. Yeah, when I say declarative, it follows a declarative programming model. If you know how a declarative programming model works, declarative programming model focuses more on what to do, but it might really not be bothered about how to do it. So it is more like somebody who's asking me to do the job, but somebody who's not micromanaging and not giving me the exact steps of how to do. So Fiend also is a declarative web service client. It follows a declarative programming model where it focuses on what to do, but internal complexities, algorithms, etc., the developer need not be bothered. So it becomes easier for me and you as a developer to use the Fiend client and to also write test cases. It becomes very easy. Yeah. So when you are using Fiend as an alternative to REST template, another beautiful option is Spring Cloud will automatically integrate with the load balancer. So assume that you are using the Fiend client, and using the Fiend client, you are making your calls. Automatically, it will integrate with the load balancer. Yeah. And of course, if you remember when we were using REST template, at least some kind of code we have to write, isn't it? For example, once you have a REST template object, what did you do? You called the method called get for object. Yeah, because you wanted to make a get request. Then you call the get for object method. Then in that get for object method, you pass the URL. Then you pass the class type so that the response coming in will be available in that particular type and all that. You remember, 1 or 2 lines of code you still have to write. Yeah, but using Fiend, even that is not required. You need not write any implementation. Yeah, no need to write any implementation to make your call like other services like your REST template. Yeah, how I will show you, but these are some of the pointers that you have to remember about Open Fiend. Guys, are you all with me? So don't get confused, because till now I have talked about the load balancer. Don't get confused with this. Yeah. So I want you to be very, very careful at present, because I'm discussing two different things, right? So funda to remember is we will be using our client side load balancer. Okay. The client side load balancer product that we'll be using is Spring Cloud Load Balancer, isn't it? So to use Spring Cloud Load Balancer in our microservices, what are the steps that I have to follow? First is add the dependency in pom.xml. Then second step is use the load balancer client object to choose an instance and get the URL. Yeah, and make your calls, right? Third thing, which is an optional step, is you can use @load balancer client annotation. You can give a name to it. Then using the configuration, you can specify your configuration class, and this configuration class, which is again, yeah, this configuration class, okay, will contain the configurations, okay, for your Spring Cloud load balance. Right? These are the steps that we have to follow. And of course, step 3 and 4 are optional, but these steps are what you need to follow if you want to work and set up client-side load balancer. Isn't it, guys? Yeah, this is what we have done. But now I'm saying alternative to REST template is Open Fiend. Yeah, so Open Fiend is or Fiend client, or you want to just call it as Fiend. Fiend is a declarative REST client. So this is an alternative to REST template. So for working with Open Fiend, yeah, we have to now know the steps. Yeah, see, now that you know that, okay, OpenFin is an alternative to REST template and it provides easy way of working because it follows a declarative mechanism. It automatically integrates with the load balancer. Yeah, because it follows a declarative mechanism. No code is required to actually make your calls, right? You just have to use fin and call the appropriate method. It follows a proxy-based interface method to actually make the calls. Yeah. So with all those advantages, and writing test cases also is easy because internal entry cases are anyway hidden. That will be handled by fin. In a test case also, you just have to call the method. Yeah. And check the and mock the appropriate things if you want, or test the responses that you have got. So testing also becomes easy. Yeah. So alternative to REST template is OpenFin, yeah, which is a declarative REST client. Now, to use OpenFin, so instead of REST template, if you plan to use OpenFin in your projects, what should you do? These are the steps pertaining to it. So step 1, are you able to make out step 1? Can you go through it and tell me what am I doing in step 1, please? You're just adding the dependency for OpenFin, right? So you can see the artifact ID, Spring Cloud Starter OpenFin. And group ID is org spring framework.cloud. And of course, this is available in this. You can add the dependency in your Spring initializer. So you can see OpenFin, it's a declarative REST client. OpenFin creates a dynamic implementation of an interface decorated with the JAX RS or Spring MVC based annotation. Yeah. So I just have to add this OpenFin. That's all. Yeah. So you can see here, that's the dependency that you have to add. That is step 1. Step 2, look at my main application class. Look at my main application class. Do you see any new field related annotation that has been used here? Yes, right. So you can see @enable fiend clients you have to use. Yeah. @enable fiend clients. So in your main application class, just use this annotation and provide the package which might contain your fiend interface. You will be creating a fiend interface or a fiend proxy class, right? Sorry, proxy interface through which the calls will be made. So here you can give either the base package name or the exact package name where the appropriate interface is present. Yeah. So in my case, I'm just giving the base package name called com.vip. So this is the step 2. Yeah. @enable fiend clients. So once this step is ready, look at step 3. Yeah. This is where you will create your fiend interface. Yeah. Which is nothing but it will act like a proxy. Yeah. So this is the code that you'll have to write. Just go through the code, please. I'm sure you can understand. Just go through this code. Then I'll explain. Please remember here, where are you adding this code? You are adding it in the Cafe Info project, Cafe Info microservice. And in Cafe Info microservice, from Cafe Info microservice, what are you trying to do? You are accessing the Cafe review service and you are accessing one method called get review, right? Remember that. And just go through it anyway, I will explain. So you can see here that this is my interface I have created, Cafe Info Proxy. Right in front of this interface is a very important annotation @fiend client. And I have given a value called Cafe Review -service. The meaning is from this cafe info application. So the current application is cafe info. From this cafe info application, whenever there is a request that goes to cafe review service, which is another microservice. So whenever any request go to cafe review service, it will always go through this interface or this proxy. That's the mean. Yeah. So I'll say @fin client, and I will give the value as cafe review -service. So this is the name of that other service which you have given, right? Spring application name you would have given, right? This is the name, and this is my interface. And in the interface, you will specify a mapping. Yeah. So you will say, look, when somebody is accessing cafe review service, and in cafe review service, whenever you are accessing this endpoint called get review slash, and it takes a cafe ID, it should call the get review method. This is the path variable that it has to take, and it is supposed to return a list of cafe review. So you will just, it's an interface, right? You need to just mention the mapping, telling this mapping, this is the method that it will have to be linked. So that's all you have to do. So in my code, wherever I am calling cafe review service, and whenever I'm hitting this endpoint review, get review followed by cafe ID, it knows that automatically it has to call this particular method in this particular service. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. In fact, these two lines I've just copied directly from that review service. From cafe review microservice, I just copied those two lines and put it here. Yeah. Only the declarations of it. So this is the third and the most important step. And the last step, step number 4 is in your service or controller class. Once everything is ready, all the 3 steps are ready. In your service or controller class, wherever you're calling that actual method, right? You will first auto wire a reference of the fin interface. So you can see that what is the fin interface here? Cafe info proxy, right? So you will auto wire for a reference of cafe info proxy, and using this cafe info proxy, you will call this method called get review, which you are calling. And because it is expecting you to pass a path parameter or an argument, you will pass the argument like this. That's all you will do. Yeah. And this will internally call, and whatever result it returns, I'm storing it, and further rest of the code will remain the same. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. Are you realizing nowhere I'm using REST template? Yeah. And this is the line where instead of using REST template, I'm directly using the fin client proxy and calling the method directly and passing the required arguments like this. Yeah. This internally is linked to this. This internally, you know, is linked to this particular service, and will go call this method accordingly. Team, are you all with me, please? Yes. Okay. So this is how you will, you can use. So it's highly recommended that, so if you ask me, can you use your Spring Cloud load balancer plus can you still use REST template? Do you think this combination is fine? Can you use it? Fine, later we can talk. Can you use it? Of course you can use it. Nobody is stopping me from using it. Yeah. Yeah. Another alternative for REST template is the web client, as I told you. Yeah, which is a little later version, which is very similar to a REST client, and it works both in a blocking and non-blocking environments, both reactive and non-reactive environments. This is also an alternative. But apart from these alternatives, the best alternative, which works very well along with the load balancer, is OpenFill. Yeah, and what are the steps that we have followed? First is add the dependency in form.xml. Then as the second step, you will enable fin client. I sometimes forget this. Yeah. Enable field clients. Then you will create your interface, right? You will create your interface, and this interface or the proxy, you will have to annotate it. Okay. Annotate it with @field client, right? That is step number 3, right? This one, step number 3. And finally, using the reference of the proxy, call the actual method. That's all you have to do. Are you all with me, guys? Yeah. So are you getting a feel when I show you the demo after the break? What and all am I going to change in my current microservice? Are you kind of getting that feel, please? Right. So these are the 2 things that I will include in my existing cafe info. Yeah. So all these I will do in my cafe info, because cafe info is calling a cafe review, right? So I'll be doing all these things in cafe info, and just to simulate or run it, I will run multiple instances of cafe review, okay, just to demonstrate and check how things work. Is that okay, all of you, please? So now that we have completed our conceptual discussion on all these, before we summarize and close this module, we'll have to look at the implementation of it in our code, right? That's the next thing to do. So this is the right time for us to take a break. Please take a break. When you come back, we will continue with our implementation demo. Please. Welcome back. Before the break, we have already discussed all the concepts pertaining to the general understanding of what are client-side load balancers. I've given you an introduction to Ribbon, which is Netflix OSS based load balancer. We also know that from Spring Boot version 2.4 onwards, Ribbon is no more supported. Hence, we will be using an alternative called Spring Cloud Load Balancer. And we have also discussed about OpenField, which is a declarative REST client, right? And why a combination of OpenField along with your load balancer is a good combination in for your production environments, right? So that is what we have done till now. Based on whatever we have discussed, I have implemented the load balancer concept and the field client or the open field concept in our existing app. So as I have already mentioned, I am sharing the projects in phases. The first set of cafe info and cafe review I shared with you was a very simple microservices where one microservice was talking to the other one. The second set of project that I've shared, Cafe Info 1 and Cafe Info 2, sorry, Cafe Info 1 and Cafe Review 1 are projects where Eureka is implemented, right? Eureka server and Eureka clients are implemented. Continuing with the same thing, you can see here, I've just renamed the same project as Cafe Info 2 and Cafe Review 2. Only change here is apart from the Eureka settings, I have also implemented the settings for your client-side load balancer and OpenField. Yeah. So once today's session gets over, I will share these projects also with you guys. Yeah. Before that, of course, we will be using Eureka server. So we'll start our Eureka server. It's the same Eureka server, but now that I had shared that article for you to read on the concept of self-preservation and the concept of renewals, etc. One extra thing I've done here in the application.yml in the Eureka server is this. Can you see anything new on line 12 and 13, please? Yeah. By default, you are all aware that enable self-preservation is set to true. By default, true is the default value. So that is why when Eureka server is maintaining the instances details, if it does not receive a heartbeat, even after several attempts or after several amount of time, if it still does not receive any heartbeat, it will still preserve those instances and keep showing those instances there, which I don't want. Okay, I would say wait for the heartbeat, and once the renewal period is done, please evict them from the server, deregister them. So to do that, I will use a property under Eureka. I'm saying server.enable self-preservation, and I'm setting it to false. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah, this is not needed, but in case you want, you can set it. Yeah. This is the only change I've done. And just to save resources, anyway, yesterday we have worked with multiple Eureka servers, right? So is it okay that I start with this in a single server mode, please, all of you? So let's start this in a single server mode. So let the Eureka server start. We need not wait for it. Meanwhile, we can discuss our microservices. Please note, in our scenario, Cafe Info is talking to Cafe Review, right? Cafe Info is talking to Cafe Review. So if my intention is to configure a client-side load balancer and also probably replace REST template with OpenFeed, in which microservice should I put all these configurations, please? Direct in Cafe Info, right? So that is what I'm going to do. And absolutely no change to Cafe Review too. Sorry, Cafe Review will remain the same. Absolutely no change in any of its functionalities. Yeah. So if you recollect, Cafe Review will remain the same. Let me quickly show you the application.yml. And everything is the same like earlier. And you can see here that since there is only one Eureka server now, I am pointing to that same single Eureka server. And guys, I also asked you to try this, right? Remember, I was telling you that in microservices, even this setting is not required. Yeah, even that @ enable discovery client also, annotation also is not required. The mere appearance or inclusion of Eureka client dependency in your pom.xml is more than enough to make this behave as a Eureka client. Remember I told you? Yeah. But please, and once you start, automatically it will search for the Eureka server. Assumption is it will search for the Eureka server to be available on a standard Eureka port. Which is the standard Eureka server port, please? Correct, 8761, right? So if you have a Eureka server running on 8761 and you want these microservices to act as instances and register automatically, you just have to add the Eureka client dependency in your pom.xml. This setting is not required. Even @ enable discovery client annotation also is not required. Yeah. If you are running on a standard port, okay. But in my case, I'm just maintaining all these things. And now let us, I just wanted to show you this. Yeah. Meanwhile, let me come back and access the Eureka server. I will demonstrate all these using Microsoft Edge. Because at least Microsoft Edge has that JSON formatter and other things. The UI at least looks good. Yeah. So let me access Eureka server, please. Localhost 8761. And it's up, right? So at present, you can see as per my configuration, I have switched off self-preservation, right? So self-preservation mode is turned off. This may not protect instance expiry in case of network or other problems. But I don't want it because it's taking too much of time to deregister them, right? So no DS replicas, at present no instances are registered. So your Eureka server is up. Now what I'm going to do is, this is my cafe review. As I told you, code-wise, absolutely no change here. It's the same cafe review. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm straight away going to run them. Yeah. And I want you to look at this. Please look at application.yml for cafe review. Look at the server port. I've set to 0. You know what the meaning, right? When I run this cafe review, what is the port number it will take? Correct, a random port, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the application, just going to run it. So you can see it is starting the cafe review application. And once all the things are done, it should get registered with the Eureka server, right? So you can see that it has picked up random port 51571. Yeah. 51571. This is one port on which your cafe review is running, right? Now it said it started. So if you just go here, sorry, not here. So used to going to Chrome. So when I refresh, you can see that cafe review is there. So this is the first instance and the status is up, right? Now just to simulate, because we are trying load balancer, right? We are trying load balancer, and just to simulate that there are multiple cafe reviews available. What I'm going to do is again, I'm going to go back to the application. One instance is anyway running. Again, I'm going to go back to the same application. Again, I'm going to right click on it and I want to say run as Java application. Okay. Now, when I try to run it as a Java application, will there be any issues of any port conflicts, etc.? No, right? Because they're designed to run on random port. Yeah. So no issues at all. So it's as easy to run another instance. Here I'm manually running an instance. Again, I'm running the same application. Now I'm assuming that it will pick up, of course, a random port. And once this is aware, this is also ready, you should be able to see 2 instances of cafe review registered with Eureka, right? So we'll just wait for it. Up. So this is also up. Let us come back to this and recheck. Have a look. How many instances of cafe review is available, guys? Can you look at the output and tell me? Correct, 2 instances, right? 2 instances. And of course, one was running on port 51571 and the other one I forgot to look at it. Let me have a look. Cafe review, this one. Yeah. 51601. Okay, of course, it's not necessary for you to know it, but you can see that it is running on two different boards, right? Now, this is how it looks. Now, what we are going to do is we will have to look at the cafe info. So cafe info, there are a lot of changes I've done because till now we had not implemented the load balancer or open fiend. But here, as per our discussions, this is what I plan to implement. Yeah. So in cafe info, because I want to use client side load balancer, initially at least the first two steps I'll perform, so that like I want to use the client side load balancer. Plus, I will also be using the open field as an alternative to REST template. So all these steps I'll have to perform. Yeah. So first, let's look at the details. Yeah. First, let's look at the steps that are involved in setting up the load balancer, client side load balancer. Yeah. Then we will look at the code pertaining to the open field. Yeah. Let us not discuss both of it together. It will be confusing. First, let's look at how am I going to look at these steps. Okay, see. First, to set up the client-side load balancer, I need to add the dependency in pom.xml. Plus, in my code, in my service code, wherever I was using discovery client earlier, instead now I have to use a load balancer client, right? And then I will have to make a call. So let's look at the code. First, let's look at pom.xml. Majority of the pom.xml is going to be the same, but we just need to look at whether I have the dependency added for Spring Cloud Load Balancer. So let me just scroll. Rest of the things are the same. Have a look at line number 58 to 61, please. Have I added the dependency for Spring Cloud Starter Load Balancer? Yes, so you can see that this dependency is available. Yeah. Now, this is step number 1. Now, step number 2, if you all recollect, if your intention is just to go ahead with the defaults or default setting of a load balancer, absolutely no need for you to configure and change the configuration. So initially what we can do is, I will go to I can directly go to my code. Yeah. Assuming that I don't have any other change, I'll directly go to my code where I have cafe info service.java. And in cafe info service.java, okay, if you look at it, rest of the code is the same. But look at the code before we discuss get all method. Yeah? Because there's going to be change in the get all method, right? Now have a look. Are you able to see line 51 and 52, please? What I have commented? Yeah, the discovery client object that we were using earlier. Now I don't want to use it directly, right? So I have commented these two lines. These two lines are only required if you're just using Eureka, right? But these two lines have commented. Instead, I have added line 55 to 56. Yeah, I'm sure you can make out what's happening here. Can you look at line 55 and 56 and tell me what am I doing here? Correct. I've added a reference of load balancer client. So once you have added the load balancer dependency in your pom.xml, obviously you can get a auto-wired object or reference of type load balancer client. So I have it here, right? Next. For now, don't worry about this. I will talk about it when we talk about field. I'm just first concentrating on the steps that I have included to include the client-side load balance. So this is the additional step I've done. And once that is ready, if I just scroll down, if you just scroll down, I want you to look at line number 80. Yeah, line number 80 to line number 83. Yeah, go through line number 80 to line number 83. Did we discuss about this in our slides? Yes, right? So if you recollect here, line number 76 and 77 I've commented. Earlier, when we were using only discovery client, using discovery client, I used to get all instances. And from those instances, I used to select the first one. From there, I used to get the URI, right? Instead of these two lines, now that I want to use the load balancer, using the load balancer client, I will call the method called choose, and I'm specifying the name. So as you can see, this will give me only one instance, which is the best instance as per your load balancer. Yeah. And once you get the instance, the rest of the code remains the same. See, from that instance, you can directly get the URI. And once you get the URI, further you can continue. Or instead of using get URI method directly, you can even try creating the URI structure from the beginning, like how we discussed in this slide. Both of them are one and the same. Yeah. You can use URI create method, create the URI format first, then supply the host by using the instance.getHost method. Then you supply the port by using this. And this is not enough, right? URI will be pointing to only the root URL. And to that URI, I'm going to add get review followed by the cafe ID, and the URL is ready. And further, using this URL, I can make my calls. Isn't it, guys? Yes, right? But till now, to make, once the URL is ready, to make call to the REST endpoint, which is the Spring supplied template class we have used. REST template, right? But as I told you, you can see here, yeah, you can see here, I have commented the code commented the code for the REST template way of working. So in my code, I am not going to use the REST template way of working, but instead I am going to use an alternative called OpenFeed. Is that okay, guys? Yeah. So till now we have done only two basic configurations for the load balancer. So if you recollect this is done and this is done, right? We have just discussed this. Now, before moving on, if I want to use this REST template, use OpenFeed as an alternative to REST template, these are some of the steps that I have to perform, right? So what we'll do is, before proceeding further, let me again go back to pom.xml, because if you want to use OpenFeed, you have to add the OpenFeed dependency, right? So here it is. Can you all see line number 50 to 53? So I have added the dependency for OpenFeed. So this is step number 1. Yeah. Once this is ready, we will go to our main application class. In the main application class, I want you to look at the code. Of course, in my code now, I am not using REST template. Yeah, but still I have this bean in case I want to revert back to REST template, I can use it. So I have not deleted it. But in your case, if you are strong and you want to only use OpenFeed, all this is not required. Yeah. But anyway, related to OpenFeed, look at the code. Do you see any important field related annotation here, please? Line number? Correct. Line number 16. So you can see here you have used @enable fiend clients, and you have to supply the package name where fiend related interface or proxy will be present. So if you're unsure where exactly, which exact package, you can even give the base package name. So in my case, I know that my interfaces are under this base package called com.wipro. So you can just give the base package name. Yeah. So this is step number 2. Now, once the step number 2 is ready, now is the time for us to create our actual interface. Yeah. So what I've done is in the service com.wipro.service, you can see I've created cafe info proxy.java. So this is the OpenFeed proxy class or interface that I've created. Yeah. So let me show this to you. Okay, these are the imports. Have a look at this code. For now, you can ignore 15, line number 15. We'll come back to that later. Yeah. Don't worry about line number 15 now. Just look at the rest of the code. Did we already discuss about this? in the slides? Yes, right? So this is my interface and I have annotated it with Fiend client, telling from this microservice, if you are calling cafe review hyphen service, and in that cafe review service, if you are accessing this endpoint called get review and you are trying to make a get mapping. So this method will be called if you are making a request on this endpoint, you are making a get request on this endpoint, which is part of this service. This is the method to be called. So you can see that this is the only declaration I've done. Yeah. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. Just look at line number 15. I'm sure you can guess. Any guesses? What am I trying to do in line number 15, guys? Correct. You are customizing the configurations for your load balancer client, right? For your load balancer, the client side load balancer, if your intention was to customize any of those properties, you can use this load balancer client. Yeah. But please remember, when I was discussing about this, when I was saying, okay, how do you customize it? You used load balancer client, and at the rate load balancer client annotation should be used on the main application level. But please remember, there is a change. The annotation is still the same. But if you're using OpenFeed, to access those methods, all your calls will happen through the OpenFeed interface or the proxy. So if at all you want to, and you know that OpenFeed integrates with your load balancer client, right? So if you want to customize same funda, but this annotation, instead of getting added onto the application, you need to add this on the interface level, on the Feed interface level. So can you see this? That is why I've added it here. Otherwise, if you are not using Feed, if you were using regular REST template, ideally this line should be present in your runnable class. Yeah, your cafe info main application class, right? Here itself, you can use this annotation. But in my case, because I'm using Feed, any changes to the, any customizations to your load balancer should be added here. And you can see here that according to this, please remember that when you are using load balancer client, you will give a name, right? Retain the same name as your Feed client. Because whenever you are making a call to this, which configuration it has to pick up, which customized configuration it has to pick up, it will link it with the name. So give the same name here for the Feed client and the load balancer client. And this is my class, which is my configuration class, cloud provider configuration.class. So in the same package, I have this also. Okay? I'll show that to you, but are you all fine with this? What happened, guys? Yeah. Now we will look at this cloud provider configuration. Please note, was it mandatory for me to do any customizations? Is it mandatory, guys? No. So please remember, here we are discussing about these optional steps where using @load balancer client, you are customizing your configurations for your load balancer. Okay. So these are optional steps that I'm showing you. And this is my cloud provider configuration.java. Look at this example. Default was with zone preference, right? Default is with zone preference. Yeah. And discovery client also, if you just say with discovery client, by default, it will pick up a reactive discovery client. But if you want to ensure that it works in a blocking way, you can use this method called with blocking discovery client. Plus, I'll do one thing. For now, let me go ahead with the defaults. The default is this, right? So let me enable this. Yeah. I'm not actually customizing at all. I'm just showing you the defaults. Yeah. I am using the discovery client. And what is my preference? With zone preference. So it will always prefer to pick up instances from the same zone. But in our case, we are not deploying our apps on any cloud, right? So it does not know any zone per se. But there is internally a default zone it uses. So whatever instances are present in the same machine or in the same zone, it will pick up. Yeah. So that's all I'm doing. Later we will come back, and in case you want to change it, we can change it. But for now, I'm going ahead with the defaults. Is that okay, all of you? And some more steps are left out. So even in terms of our this adding dependency for OpenFin is done. Enable Fin clients in main runnable class is done. And creating that interface and annotating it with Fin client is done. Now, wherever you are actually calling in your service method or controller method, where exactly you are calling the actual method, you will have to use the reference of the proxy and then call that. Yeah. So that is one last change that is left over. So in our case, we are calling it in the service, right? So let's go to the service. In our service, anyway, this also you could have removed. We are not using REST template anyway, right? So I want you to be a little careful here. Look at this before I talk about get all. Are you all comfortable with line number 59 and 60? And just to help you understand the code better whenever you are referring to it, I've also added some simple comments right in front of that. Okay, so use these two lines when you're just using Eureka, use these two lines when you're using load balancer, blah blah blah, all that. Okay, and now you can see here that this is the reference of your Fin client, right? So I'm just getting a reference of my proxy of the Fin interface. And once I have it here, the rest of the code is the same. Earlier we have discussed that we have used load balancer. And once the URL is ready, earlier what we used to do, using REST template, I call this method, then I pass this, all that, right? So instead of these two lines are when you are using REST template. Instead of that, now that you are planning to use Fin, look at how I have replaced those lines with line number 99 and 100. Yeah, go through line 99 and 100, please, all of you. Actually 99. Okay. Are you all comfortable with that? How to use Fin to call the method? That's all you have to do. No need of calling the appropriate method, then passing the URL. All that is not required. Anyway, you have the proxy reference. Using that, call the get review method, and you pass the cafe ID. Yeah, so it will go to the proxy. In the proxy, it will call this get review method. Because this get review method was expecting you to pass the cafe ID, that is what you pass. That's all you will do. So when you call that cafe review hyphen service, and under that, whenever there is a call made to this URL, this is what will get called. In fact, I need not even have the URL here, isn't it? Because I am calling the method by using this. Yeah. And this method call is making a call to get review / cafe ID. Team, are you all with me? So that's it. So this is the, sorry, my service is where I was using, and rest of the code are the same. So team, are you all with me, please? So almost ready. 1 minute. Let me save this in case I want to share this with you guys. Client side load balancer and open Fin. Yeah. So that's all is the code, guys. Are you all with me? Yeah. So can you just look at this and tell me, have we completed all these activities, please? Right. Now that everything is ready, now we can start this app. Yeah. And again, according to the application.yml of Cafe Info, this is also registering with Eureka, and this will also run on a random port. Yeah. So we are almost ready. We'll run this. So you can see that this also started on a port 49731, a random port. So now we will go back to our Eureka server. So you can see here that there is one instance of cafe info. And just to simulate, there are two instances of cafe review. Yeah. And in my code, what I've done is, I'll just quickly show that to you. In our cafe info service, wherever I'm calling that get all method, here if you see, I'm also, just for my understanding, I'm also printing the URI and the final URL, isn't it? I'm using a sysout and I'm printing, I'm logging these messages in the console, right? So this will help me to understand exactly which instance did it pick up. Okay. So it will be easy for us to identify. Yeah. Let me go back here. So are you all ready for the demonstration, please? And please note, at this juncture itself, let me call out some kind of issues that we might face. Yeah. Please note, in a typical client-side load balancer, the by default strategy is zone-aware load balancer. But in our case, are we running our microservices in a cloud environment? No, right? That is one, okay. We are not running our apps on cloud environment. That is one point. Second point is, remember in one of the slides also, we saw that the client side load balancer, Spring Cloud load balancer, or even Ribbon for that matter, they also have a caching mechanism, isn't it? Yeah. So though they might be using a zone aware load balancer, if they are using caching, of course, caching is enabled. That adds a lot of performance optimization. So many a times what happens is first instance that comes in, it might still start using the same instance. Okay. And unfortunately, there is no way to stop first level cache. We all know that, right? In Spring apps, there's no way for me to disable first level cache. And all these will have first level cache to reuse. Yeah. And the third point about I demonstrating this under Wipro backbone. I'm connected. I'm at office today, so I'm connected to the office domain. And because I'm working on Wipro, please remember I foresee some issues. One issue about working with in the Wipro backbone, etc., is or on the system is, please remember if I have to demonstrate. One thing is, yes, I'm going through the proxy and all that. Yeah. And because I'm going through the proxy also will have some kind of caching. Yeah. So because I'm going through proxy also will have some kind of caching. Okay. And one more problem is, if I want to show exactly, unfortunately, we don't have a incognito browser. Yeah. Browser not available. So because why is this? Regular browsers also has caching, right? Okay. Our browsers also cache. Okay. So because of these issues, when I show you the demo, you might see that even though we are changing the algorithms, and instead of zone aware, if we change it to pick up the same instance again, you might really not see much changes there. That is due to all these issues. Guys, are you all with me? Yeah. But guys, please note, assume that you were trying all these on a personal machine. Yeah. Without these kind of restrictions. And you also have an incognito browser where you can access these without caching. Then you might really see the exact way of the expected work. Guys, are you all with me? Yes. And just to take help from a few of you, how many of you are working from office and you guys are connected to the backbone? Anybody working from office and connected to the backbone? No, right? Okay. Unfortunately, if at least that was there, because I'm also working on the backbone, you guys could have accessed my service. I would have given you the full computer name, and using that, you could have accessed my service. And we could have really simulated that different requests are coming in and how the entire stuff works. But not to worry. But remember, these are some of the pitfalls we foresee. But don't worry. This has been time tested. We have tested it on several places. We have tested it even on classroom environments without proxy, with proxy. We have tested it on personal laptops in a incognito browser. It works as expected. But don't get worried if you don't see the exact anticipated output. Yeah, the main anticipated output that we might really not see is due to caching. Yeah, the same instances might be over and over called again. Okay, instead of maybe round robin or whatever. Yeah. Team, are you all with me? Just remember, okay, this might happen. Okay. Anyway, let's try it. So everything's there. Now let me access this. Yeah. I am accessing this URL. Let me click on this URL. Look at the address bar and tell me, do you see any change here? What has it picked up? Are you able to see the address bar? What has it picked up? Correct. You remember in yesterday's demonstration, it was automatically taking up my full computer name as the host name. And because it was not working, I had to change that entire stuff to local host and then it started working. But now can you see that it has automatically taken the IP address? Yeah. How did it automatically take the IP address? Let me show you. In the cafe info application.yml, do you see any additional property I've used here, guys? All of you? Start looking from line number 21, you will realize. Yes, you can see line number 24, right? Remember I was telling you about this yesterday? There is one property that you can add under Eureka instance telling prefer IP address and I'm setting it to true. So when I register, it will register with the Eureka server with the IP address. Yeah. So that is why you can see that the IP address is working. Yeah. Anyway, this actuator.info anyway does not work. Okay, I'll come here. I want you to keep watching, all of you. Okay. And meanwhile, we will also open up the console for the cafe info and let me pin it. Okay. So because here in cafe info, let me see. Yeah, I'm looking at cafe info and in cafe info, I should be able to see the URLs that it is speaking, right? Anyway, let's have a look. So here I'm adding a new cafe. So I'm adding a cafe called Grand and I'm saying this is a 5-star cafe and I'll click on submit. I'll see all details. Yeah, this is the details. Yeah. So I have one cafe. Let me add some reviews. Okay. I'm accessing any of these instances, does not matter. For this also I've added prefer IP address. So you can see that its IP address is coming up. Yeah. Let me add some reviews. I'll give a 5. I'll say excellent. Okay. Click on submit. So at present, I have one review that I've given. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I will pick up the cafe and I will open up another tab. And here I'm going to call the get all method. Till now it was talking to each other itself, but when I make a call to get all method and I want to get all the details for cafe ID 1, you know that cafe info will talk to cafe review, right? And all this circus will happen. Yeah. So when I make a call, you all know that you are using OpenFeed. First of all, you are using load balancer client to choose a URL. And once that is available, again, I'm just using just to show it to you. And we all know that your load balancer client is integrated with OpenFeed. In fact, it's the reverse. OpenFeed is integrated with load balancer client. Even using that load balancer client, getting the URL, all that might be required only if you use REST template. Otherwise, just using the OpenFeed proxy and calling the method should make the appropriate calls, right? Now, let me make a call. You're able to see the details, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to this. Can you see which instance it has picked up here, guys? All of you? Just to analyze, what is the instance that it has picked up? 51601. And from 51601, it is picking up the details. Yeah. So it has hit one review on 51601. Yeah. Let us do one thing. What I'm going to do is let me copy this URL. Here is where the problem comes. See, on my machine, even though we clear the cache or whatever, okay, it will always pick up some cached values. Yeah. Anyway, just to simulate, what I'm going to do is let me go to Chrome. In Chrome, let me open a different tab. Okay. And here, let me try to access. Again, I'm not too sure what it will pick up, but still, let me access it. Yeah. Don't worry, this will it will take some time to come. But when I see this, I want you to look at it. Okay, thrice I've clicked, right? So you can see here, first it has accessed 51601. Next it has accessed 51571. Are you able to make out, guys? Yeah. And multiple times I've clicked, so you can see that it is accessing the same thing. And again, when I click it, you see that again it has picked up the 51601. Team, are you all with me? Yeah. Yeah. But you can see that it has first access this, then this. Yeah. Then after some time it has accessed this, right? Because as I told you, zone aware load balancer, depending on the closest and fastest, it will pick up. But at least you are able to see that sometimes it is picking up one, sometimes it is picking up the other. Isn't it, guys? Yeah. I think today is my lucky day. At least we were able to see different numbers. Yeah. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to same thing. Okay. What I'm going to do is let me stop this app. This is my cafe review. Sorry, cafe info. Sorry. I will stop this. Yeah. And when I stop this, let me go back to my Eureka. And Eureka again, ideally, it as soon as it does not get a heartbeat at least once, and after whatever 90 seconds or usually I've seen it is 4 minutes of waiting, it should deregister it, right? But anyway, does not matter. This is 144. I'll remember 144 is a old one. So that is anyway not working, right? So if I click anyway, it is not working. And ideally this guy should realize after some time and it should deregister. Okay. Anyway, what we will do is I will go back to my code. Cafe info, I'll go back again. I will go to this cloud provider configuration.java. And in cloud provider configuration.java, I'll do one thing. Earlier, I was using this with zone preference, right? Now, let me comment this. After commenting this, there are many other options. For example, I can say with, you can see. You can see there are different varieties. With blocking discovery client, that is what I've used. Whether it should do health checks or not. And remember, I was talking to you about with request-based sticky session, like some weighted metrics. Yeah. It will use some retry algorithms. Yeah. Zone preference is the default one. Instead of all these, I'm going to, instead of zone preference, which I was using earlier, I will use this. See, with same instance preference. Any guesses? If I choose with same instance preference, what is the meaning? instead of zone preference, I'll choose this. What is the meaning? Correct. It will choose only one. So how many ever times assume for the first time when I choose, it got one instance and it was able to give me the data, right? From the next time onwards, how many ever requests you make, it will only access the data only from there. That is the whole idea. Okay. So this is what I have done. What I'm going to do is now I am going to run this. So this is the change that I've done. Let me run this, please. Meanwhile, I'll do one thing. From here also, I'm going to disable the caching, at least clear the cache. Yeah. Whatever you do, sometimes it does not work as expected, but nevertheless. Yeah. So clear the cache. Okay, cookies and cached files, etc. I just want to clear it. Last hour anyway. Let it clear it, and maybe even from Chrome also I'm going to clear it. It's going to be a different IP address. So ideally it should work without being cleared, without cache needing to be cleared. But anyway, I don't want to take any chance here. Okay. Well, let me go here also. Chrome. Cache. Let me clear it. Okay. It's got cleared. Still taking some time. It's okay. Let me refresh this. So can you all see that a new instance has come and the old instance with 144 has gone, right? So then it realized that it is no more available, deregistered that, and now this is there, right? So now what I'm going to do is, anyway, review I've already added. So I'll just go to cafe info and let me add the details of the cafe. Grand, right? Grand. Say this is a 5-star cafe. Okay. And now one of these should give me all reviews. Okay. Reviews are, review is anyway there. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this, get cafes, and I'm going to go here. And instead of this, I'm going to say get all of them. So it's giving me the data, but let me check the, okay. Can you see all of you? 51571. From here, you got the data now, right? 51571. Yeah. Now let me go back here. Again, let me copy this. Maybe I will open another tab or whatever. Again, you are getting the same data. So you can see that it is faster also. Yeah. And you can see that it is getting from 51571 itself. Yeah. Let me open Chrome. In Chrome, let me access it. Again, you are getting the data, but let's look at it. Are you able to see this, guys? In Chrome also, from Chrome also, it's accessing the same. How come it is accessing the same instance? And you can see roughly it is faster also, right? Why is it using the same instance? What is the load balancer algorithm selection I've made? Yeah, it's not default zone. It's not default zone. Default zone is the default that I had shown you earlier. Yeah. Right. I have used one single thing, right? With same instance preference. So first time you can see that I've used this with same instance preference. That is why you can see it is printing the same instance. It's getting the details from the same instance. This might not be the perfect one. As I told you, default itself is good. Yeah, you might see that on my local machine, it's not working as expected, kind of, right? But on production environments, it will beautifully work. Don't worry. Yeah. You have my word for it. So in your production environments, nothing working as expected like this, call me. Okay. So this is how it works, guys. And this was the expectation. Yeah. So today was my lucky day. At least I was able to show you how exactly things work. Team, are you all with me? Okay. So what do you feel, guys? Do you think a load balancer and a open field is going to add value to your production environments? Yes, is it? Yeah. And are you realizing that though we are doing too many things, are you realizing that it is easy once you know the concepts behind why you are writing this particular code? Yes, is it? Yeah. So still remember that microservices, when I say one disadvantage of microservice is complex. Yes, because there are too many things you have to do. Okay. And there are too many peripheral projects that you have to set up. But once you set up, later it will be only kind of managing it, isn't it? Yeah. And now and guys, I also wanted to talk to you about one important thing. Do you think microservices is the global pill for all the distributed systems? Any distributed system, do you think you have to architect and build it using microservices architecture? Not really. You know what? A good modularized code that itself is a good enough strategy. Yeah. But when you want to choose microservices, I think we've already spoken about it. Yeah. Like, do you want to take advantage of using different technologies and different tools for individual functionalities? Then the choice should be microservice. Do you need facilities for scaling individual functionalities if they're designed and developed as microservice? Then your choice should be microservices. Do you work in a very strict CI/CD pipeline where daily releases are happening and go to market is quick and you need all these things to work seamlessly and cloud is the default infrastructure that you guys are using? Absolutely, your choice should be microservice. Yeah. So it's not that microservice should be selected for all and every Tom, Dick, and Harry solution that you are building. So we have to weigh our pros and cons, and accordingly we might have to select. Yeah. So teams, coming back to our discussions, we have completed our activities for today. If you recollect till now, in terms of Netflix OSS onwards, we have analyzed Netflix OSS, we have understood Spring Cloud, we have looked at service discovery with Spring Cloud, Netflix, Eureka. We set up Eureka server, we set up Eureka clients, which is nothing but our microservices. We set up one single Eureka server, we have set up multiple Eureka servers. And today I have just introduced you to the client-side load balancing with Ribbon only on theoretical side. And as an alternative to Ribbon, we have worked with Spring Cloud Load Balancer. As an alternative, as a declarative alternative to REST template, I have introduced you to OpenFeed. And just now using OpenFeed and client-side load balancer, we have implemented that in our cafes. Isn't it, guys? Yeah. So based on whatever we have done, I will be sharing these projects and the recordings of today in some time. Hopefully all of you are remembering that you are working on the hands-on exercise that I've given on the top gear, which is the assessment management. Yeah. Now that by now, ideally, you should have built your microservices and you should have also configured them as Eureka clients, and you should have also set up the Eureka server. So how many of you have done till then, till that stage? Bharat, oh, fantastic. Yeah. Durgesh, very nice. Yeah. Out of 75 participants, I can see only a handful of names. Guys, please back up others. Yeah, hands-on is important. I will give you time, don't worry. But you know what? By experience, I'm telling you, because I'm also a student, I also attend a lot of trainings. Only when you are learning it, when things are fresh, when you do your labs, you can do it quickly, believe it or not. If you take rest, later you will not get enthusiasm to do it. Yeah. Okay, good. Even if my trainings are going to help at least 3 people, 4 people to add value, it's worth it. Yeah. Okay, that's it from me, guys. So as per our agenda, can you tell me tomorrow what are we going to learn? Yes, we will be learning about the fault tolerance circuit breaker option. Of course, Hystrix was the option available from Netflix OSS, but Hystrix is no more supported. Alternative to Hystrix is Resilience 4J. So we will be doing Resilience 4J, and post that we will. Yeah. Tomorrow, as soon as we assemble, right after our quiz, before moving on to Resilience 4J, I will be opening up the forum for Q&A. Any questions that you have on load balancer, please make a note. Tomorrow we can address those questions and then move on. Yeah. Please remember, guys, tomorrow being the last day, you will also be expected to take up and clear a quick assessment. Please be ready for that as well. I'll see you all tomorrow then, guys. Bye-bye.